All right, all right. What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to Knights of the Nerves Table. I'm your host, EJ, and I'm very excited to have both of my boys, Josh and Dieter, back in here with me to discuss the latest Marvel outing, Thor: Love and Thunder. So before we get going, how are you doing tonight, Dieter?
Well, I am going to be reflexively touching my head a lot because anybody who is watching this who knows me is just now finding out for the first time that I got a haircut for the first time in 3 years.
Oh my goodness.
I just found out.
Yeah, Josh literally found out about 20 minutes ago when we were prepping for the stream. So I'm also going to be hoping that my mom does not watch this because I'm seeing her in like 5 days, and this was a surprise for her. And also, I just don't want her to hear what a terrible, foul-mouthed person she raised. So,
yeah, I think all our mothers might be upset with that. But no, you look great, Dieter. Like that haircut looks excellent. Armed Atlas over here just said, "Man, y'all looking good. What happened to the hair?" So they're all wondering what's going on, Dieter. And I think you might win the award for best hair of the night. So now you're definitely in the running. So just to let you know that. But before I get with that, Josh, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing really, really good. I'm super happy to be here in general. We haven't been together in a while. I don't know exactly how long it's been, but it feels like it's been a while. I think maybe since the Star Wars live stream that we've done something all together. So I'm just super excited to be here and to be doing Knights of the Nerds Table stuff because that's what we're here for. That's what we love to do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And Robert Curtis just said, I can't stick around since I haven't seen it yet. But what's up, Knights? What's up back to you, my guy?
What's going on?
Up back to you. Love to hear.
Thanks for poking your head in. Come in and check out and see if you disagree with either me or EJ, because you're going to disagree with one of us.
Oh, we have some fireworks. But before we get into that, I really want to thank all of you guys out there because we just hit this momentous milestone for our channel where we hit the 100 subscribers mark. We're actually at 108, so it's a little bit over 100 now. Thank you guys so much for that. We're doing a lot of things lately to kind of bring in new content and new types of ways to interacting with you guys and showing you guys our passions. We can't wait to really show you what else we have on the horizon coming up.
Yeah, and thank you so much, guys. The Watch This Before You Watch Thor Love and Thunder video is doing so well. As of this live stream, we were at just over 6,500 views, which is so cool. Honestly, we did not expect that at all. We averaged like 30 views a video after like 2 weeks. So the fact that we had a video do this well is so cool, so awesome. We were all very, very excited. We loved watching the views go up. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for all the new subscribers. Honestly, this live stream is just a big thank you to you guys is really the main point here. But we're going to get into some other stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. And that Thor Love and Thunder video is part of a new series of content that we are rolling out that's going to be a lot more short form, a lot more scripted. But we're not just chasing the algorithm with it. We also just put out a new basically editorial from Josh where he talks about what he thinks the best Marvel Disney Plus series is. Spoilers, he's wrong. The best series is WandaVision. But
actually, I agree with you, Dieter. I agree with you.
But yeah, that's going to be there's going to be a lot of new videos coming out from there. I've got some stuff in the works, a new segment that hopefully will be coming out next week. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And again, thank you so much for watching what we do here. We really appreciate it. And also a quick shout out to friends of the channel, Raz and Katie, who I see in the chat as well. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. Also, Armed Atlas once again for popping in and congratulating us for the 6,000 views. Really appreciate that. Now, let's get right into today's topic. Now, obviously, there's going to be some spoilers, but it's been out for a week now, so some of us have seen it. But if you haven't seen it yet, and if you're like our boy Robert, you probably want to hang back a little bit before we get into this, right? Now, before we go,
Ahmed's dipping out too.
Ahmed. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so Dieter, before we get into this, I definitely want you to go ahead and give us that quick Dieter synopsis of the film Thor: Love and Thunder.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna give it until the end of this sentence for anyone who needs to clear out for spoilers to clear out for spoilers. And
alert.
alert, get ready. All right, everyone cleared out? Okay, perfect. And I see we have some bold opinions about what the best Disney Plus show is. We'll do an episode about that one day, but let's talk about Thor for right now. So Thor Love and Thunder begins with a prelude featuring Christian Bale and his daughter on presumably an alien planet. It is implied that the alien planet was destroyed by basically civil war, and eventually Christian Bale, who's playing Gore the God Butcher, his daughter dies. And shortly thereafter, he finds his way to basically an oasis created by his god. He goes in there, he's like, oh, thank you, you're here, you've saved me, I appreciate this. And the god is straight up just like, you didn't go here, bro? Which he does not take kindly because he just watched his daughter die in his arms. And fortunately, the reason that his god is there is because his god just killed a being that was wielding a weapon called the Necro Sword, which is the big MacGuffin for this movie. It is a sword that kills gods. And it needs a new friend, so it calls to Gore. Gore takes it, kills his god, and proceeds on a rampage throughout the universe to take out every god he can find. So fast forward, we are now in a prologue with Thor, who has been kind of moping on some alien planets with the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are kind of tired of him at this point. So
overstate his word.
The Guardians ditch him in what can only be described as a glorified cameo, because they find out that gods all across the universe are being killed. And they say, hey, Thor, go help your friends. We'll go help other people. And we'll see you when we see you. So Thor does this. He goes and finds Lady Sif, returning unexpectedly, played by Jamie Alexander from the first two Thor movies, who warns him that Gore is headed to New Asgard to kill our old friend Valkyrie, played by Tessa Thompson, as well as all the other Asgardians. Meanwhile, Jane Foster, returning, played by Natalie Portman, is in chemotherapy. She has stage 4 terminal cancer, and she will die. That's what it is. We get some cameos from Kat Dennings and Stellan Skarsgård, who are basically there to tell her that she's going to die. So she decides, in a feat of desperation, to go to New Asgard and find Mjolnir, which responds to her and calls her and reforges itself, making her into the new mighty Thor. Right after that, Gore attacks, and Thor shows up. Thor, Odin's son. In the interest of keeping them differentiated past this point, I will be calling them Odin's son and Jane Foster, just because it makes life easier. And sure. That's what they did in the Jason Aaron run of the comics. So Odinson shows up and is fighting, discovers that Jane Foster now has Thor abilities as well as Mjolnir, and the adventure begins. Gore kidnaps a bunch of Asgardian children, takes them to a place called the Shadow Realm, which is super cool. We'll talk about it.
And it's also in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is super important.
Definitely true. Also, a quick shout out to the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!, who passed away in the last week.
Yes.
I cannot unfortunately recall his name, but that's a thing. He created a truly great card game and truly great manga. So thank you for your work. Anywho's both Thors, Valkyrie and Korg, the big rocky guy played by Taika Waititi, decide to go to Omnipotent City to warn the other gods of the existence of Gore. They come across Zeus, who basically is a total douchebag to them, and tells them to get out of there. They say, okay, great, but can we take your Thunderbolt? Zeus says, nah, bro, you can't take my Thunderbolt. It's my Thunderbolt. And there's a big fight. Zeus gets stabbed by his own Thunderbolt, seemingly dies, and we find out that Gorr is on his way to the realm of eternity, an ancient cosmic being that is the literal embodiment of the temporal infinity of the universe. Big deal from the Marvel Comics. Our heroes go to the Shadow Realm, try to rescue the kids. There is a absolutely beautiful fight scene and dialogue between Gorr and Thor and everything like that we'll definitely get into. But Gorr wins, steals Stormbreaker, and our heroes escape to Earth. Valkyrie is wounded. Korg is basically just ahead at this point because he got mushed up in Omnipotent City. And we find out that Jane Foster is still suffering from cancer. Mjolnir is empowering her, but it's using her own life force. So the cancer is actually killing her faster. Thor finds out about this, says, no, please stay, and heads off once again to confront Gorr and rescue the kids. He does confront Gorr, gives his Thor powers to a bunch of children, and we get a very truly adorable fight scene where he creates a bunch of child soldiers. It's problematic but adorable, and they all fight Gorr, but it's not enough. So Jane Foster shows up and sacrifices herself to destroy the Necrosword. It's still not enough. Gorr gets to the realm of eternity, and eternity offers to grant him a wish. Gorr was originally going to use his wish to eliminate all gods from the universe, but Thor convinces him to, instead of choosing death, to choose life and bring back his child, which he does. But the Necrosword kills him because that's the thing that the Necrosword does, is it's like a poison. And requests that Thor basically become the new father to his child, whose name, by the way, I just looked it up, is Love. Thor agrees, and basically everyone lives happily ever after, except for Jane Foster, who succumbs to cancer and passes away. And then we have two post-credit scenes, one which features Foster at the Gates of Valhalla, where she is welcomed by a certain someone. You'll have to go watch the movie and find out, but it is, I think, a truly unexpected cameo. And Zeus, who we find out is still alive, sends one of his many children to go get revenge on Thor for his meddling. Was that 3 minutes? I was
no, that was pretty good, my guy.
Okay, that's all right. It was a really good synopsis. So everybody give it up for Dieter. Thank you, Dieter, for getting us through Thor Love and Thunder from top to bottom. Thank you.
Yeah, and also I'll add there, and one thing that I enjoyed that you mentioned right at the end, I don't know if you guys knew this, but like, do you know that the girl that plays Love is actually Chris Hemsworth's daughter?
Yes, I did see that, which is really cool. And his son is in it as well. Very cool.
That's a recurring theme with this movie, is basically every actor who has children in this movie, their children have cameos, whether it's characters like Love or young Thor, or whether it's the young alien children that Korg is talking to. A bunch of those were like Christian Bale's kids. I think Natalie Portman has kids. I think they were in it as well.
A big playground then.
There's a theme about parenthood.
That
is the veins and bones of this movie.
Reverberates through this movie. No, agreed. Also, I just want to give a shout out. Josh Wise popped in. How you doing, Josh?
What's up, Josh? Josh is my boss at my company. He's the CEO of my company. So thanks for stopping in, Josh. It's great to see you.
Yeah. Well, let's get this show on the road real quick. We wanted to get a deep dive into this movie after we did that little recap. So the first person I want to go to is actually Josh, and I want to ask you who your favorite performance was in this movie and why.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I know that a lot of this, we were kind of talking before, and we've had conversations as we do before we actually sit down to either make a new video or do a live stream. And I didn't want all of our answers to be the same, right? That's not super fun. However, this might be seen as like an outlier, but it is kind of truly how I feel. I think there's sort of a right answer to this question, but I'm going to go like a little bit of a step, and I'm actually going to go with Chris Hemsworth as Thor. I really like how he has established himself as Thor in the MCU. And the fact that we just had our third Thor
Fourth.
Thor movie. The fact that we just had our fourth Thor movie and we're probably going to get a fifth one with Chris Hemsworth, like he's showing no signs of being kicked out or no longer welcome as Thor. I think it's great. I think he really has the balance between the comedy and the action down now. And that's just something I really appreciate. So for me, my best performance was Chris Hemsworth as Thor. That's why we went to the movie, was for Chris Hemsworth. Sure, there's side things and other people that made it interesting, but he's the main guy. And honestly, I think he knocked it out of the park in this movie. I have issues with this movie, which we'll get into later, but I don't really have any issue with Chris Hemsworth. I think he did an excellent job yet again as Thor.
Absolutely. And I think his best part in this, in my opinion, is the scene where he's with all the other gods and he loses clothes. So I think everyone here enjoyed that. As far as I'm going to go ahead and go.
Once again, I'm going to hope that my mom is not watching this, and I'm going to heartily agree with you. That scene was great.
I had a little ab envy. Like I just look at my flabby self. I'm like, man, if I could just have abs like Chris Hemsworth,
you're envious.
Life.
I look exactly like that. I mean, no difference. It's like this. It was like looking in a mirror for me.
Exactly. And I'll go in and give my favorite. I think this is going to be to no surprise of anyone. My boy who came from the Dark Knight trilogy, Mr. American Psycho himself, Christian Bale, came in and freaking killed it as Gore. And honestly, I feel like him, Hemsworth, and Natalie Portman were in two different movies, because every time he came on the scene, he seemed like he wanted to give a very wickedly awesome performance, where this guy is obviously dealing with a ton of loss, obviously dealing with a ton of hurt and anger towards the higher powers and wanting to get back at them for basically ignoring him and letting his daughter die. And the costume looks great. He looks really scary, but I feel like at times his performance was undercut because of how the story went. But overall, when it comes to a performance, oh my goodness, Christian Baleman, he came in and he brought the sauce, my guys. And I just think Christian Bale should act forever. The only thing I'm a little bit upset about is that they didn't necessarily leave room for him to come back as a villain, because I want to spend more time with him. And the biggest sin this movie has is that we don't spend enough time with Christian Batman Bale. That's my soapbox. Go ahead.
Wow. Well, thank you.
I was holding that in, guys.
I'm glad that we all got to experience that together. I think that's just what we needed. So I guess we just kick it to you now, Dieter, and talk about who
I want to mention for anyone who's watching along at home, Josh has said that we have conversations before the stream, so we kind of get a sense of like where everybody's at, so we can kind of anticipate each other. That's 100% true. But Josh and my reactions to whatever that was that just happened with EJ, completely 100% legitimate. That was not something that we were prepared for.
No. Well, I mean, to be fair, we should have known, because this is EJ that we're dealing with, and it's Christian Bale.
It's the Dark Knight himself.
Exactly. So we should have expected this. We should have saw it coming, but here we are.
And in EJ's defense, I think Christian Bale, saying Christian Bale had the best performance in this movie, I think is the common answer, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a wrong answer. Like, no. This man, by the accounts of any person who enjoys Christopher Nolan movies, is basically slumming it in this film. And you wouldn't know it to look at his performance. He was giving 110%. He seems... I don't know. He's an actor, so maybe he wasn't, but he seemed to be really, really enjoying the performance, and it was a treat to watch him. But again, I didn't want all of us to have the same answer, and I think we really have to highlight Natalie Portman's performance, which is... This movie doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and her performance, I think, and appreciation of her performance is intrinsically informed by the knowledge that she had a not great time on the first two Thor movies and really didn't want to come back to this franchise ever until Taika Waititi basically lured her out. And thank God he did, because this is some of the best work that I think I've ever seen her do, which admittedly, I haven't seen her do much. I've seen her do Thor, I've seen her do Star Wars, and I saw Black Swan. But still, the pathos that she provides with her unwillingness to succumb to cancer, but at the same time knowing that ultimately at the end of the day she doesn't have a choice. I think this is the best chemistry that she and Hemsworth have ever had in their 3 movies together. And I mean, let's be honest here, like the whole internet is saying it, and they're right. You see her in that Thor costume, and what's not to love, right? Like, that is a beautiful woman.
Chad May.
Yeah, right now. And she's more than that, she is really believable as a hero. She is so three-dimensional in her performance, providing weakness and romance and strength and comedy. Admittedly, she is largely the straight man, but you put her with Tessa Thompson and the two of them as a double team, and it's tremendous fun. She's wonderful, and I love her. And thank you for coming back and giving us this performance, Natalie. We appreciate it. You'll never watch this, but thank you.
Hey, man, don't let it go of your dreams, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, let's go on to the next one then. So we got to get a little bit negative. I know some people, you know, this is when the rubber hits the road with a lot of us nights, so we're going to have a little bit of disagreement. But we got to talk about worst performances, right? Because this movie had some things going for it, but there are a couple people that stood out. And maybe even some of the people that some nights thought were the best here are going to come up in our Razzie section of our stream here. So before I do that,
to defend all of my faves. Oh, you guys can't see this. I didn't have a Mjolnir, so I stole my wife's reflex hammer because she's a medical practitioner.
That's the next best thing. I mean, it's basically the same thing that Sabe got a tool we're working with.
Oh yeah, I'm a summon lightning with this. Just you wait.
Who wants to go first on this? Who wants to get in there?
I'll go first because I have the most lukewarm take, I think.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think there were any truly bad performances here. I think, however, the person who was most underserved by the movie was probably Tessa Thompson. Again, not a bad performance by any stretch of the imagination, but every other character had a through line of some description. Thor and Korg both had through lines. I think Korg's more tenuous than Thor's, of dealing with fatherhood and everything to do with that. Gore obviously had a perhaps not overly original, but I think very beautiful redemptive arc. And Natalie Portman, Jane Foster, obviously had her whole thing with cancer, the cancer. The cancer. It's
the whole cancer thing.
That whole cancer thing.
Ever heard of it?
Yep. And if anyone is watching, just know that I am deeply uncomfortable with medical trauma, and I make jokes to deal with it. But Tessa Thompson, I just didn't think that she had a through line that was serving her very well. She starts as the bored king of Asgard and ends as the bored king of Asgard, and just confides in Thor and Jane Foster that, yeah, she's bored, but she knows it's important. And I didn't really feel like there was anything that pushed her to confide in that. I didn't feel like her character had a momentum or an arc in the same way that the other three leads did. And as a result, I can't really say that it was a particularly noteworthy performance. Still competently acted, just not noteworthy.
Yeah, and then that's fair, and I'll jump in here, kind of piggyback off you a little bit. I somewhat agree with you, but I probably liked her maybe a little more than you did. But I really want to talk about my worst because I think I actually have a worst performance, and it's gonna fly in the face of your favorite and best performance. So for me, my worst is your best, and it's Natalie Portman. Let me explain myself.
You better start talking quickly.
There's one scene in particular that stood out to me more than anything else. This basically applies to the majority of the scenes she was in, but the one scene that just really, really irked me when they're walking into Omnipotent City and she's talking about her catchphrase and coming up with her catchphrase and what do I say? And she's kind of like almost goofy and sort of like, kind of like when you're in high school or even middle school and you and your crush are kind of flirting with each other a little bit and you're kind of both nervous or whatever. They're both giving off that nervous, flirty energy, right? Which is cute, it's adorable, whatever. I just feel like the delivery here wasn't great. Like I didn't really feel it from Natalie, and maybe I'm alone in this. Maybe I'm wrong. I am not someone who is, trained in acting. I did some plays in high school. And, I guess I took a class in a freshman year, but certainly not. I don't have the resume that Natalie has for sure. Just for me, that scene especially really fell short and just didn't feel genuine. Like it didn't feel like it felt fake. It felt like bad acting. And I know that's mean to say, but it's just how it came across to me. And I remember talking with EJ afterwards, and we were sort of just going back and forth. And I was like, I certainly don't know this, and I want to make assumptions, but it felt like she was kind of just there at times and not really. It didn't always feel like her heart was in it. I do agree with you that her chemistry with Chris was good when they were both on screen together, but it felt more like it was Chris carrying it than it was her. Maybe I'm mean, maybe I'm a jerk, maybe I'm way off base. That's just how it felt to me. I feel like Natalie Portman really fell short of the mark as far as what I know she's capable of and has been capable of.
And a friend of ours, Brian. Yeah, before I get in, Brian, one of our friends, Brian Jr., I just said I could have used more Natalie, honestly. And I agree. Yes. Before Dieter gets into that, I want to get my thing in because I'm changing mine. I know I had one before, Josh, but I'm going to do something regrettable that I hate doing. And I'm going to join Team Josh, unfortunately.
Let's go, Team Josh. Let's go.
It's a really sad day when I have to do this. And I never thought I'd be here. Dieter. Yeah, me too, Dieter. I thought that would never happen for me. But when Josh comes across and he's just this based, like I had to sit beside him, like really while he was giving that take, my phone rang. I had to get off of it for a second. But basically a guy called, he said, "Sir, I'm Officer John from the base department, and I just want to make sure that the levels of baseness that are there are good levels because there's just a lot of truth coming out there. I want to make sure everyone's okay."
Let's give it up for Officer John from the base department, everybody. Let's give it up for Officer John. Thank you so much for tuning in the middle of our live stream. Thanks.
He wanted to make sure everyone was okay.
Officer John, I got 4 letters for you. ACAB. Stop calling my friends. Anyway.
A little surveillance anyway. Yeah, I feel
A2.
E2.
I'm sorry. So here's the deal. Here's what I'll give her. The best scenes, honestly, are the new flashback scenes where we see them as boyfriend and girlfriend. Those scenes added a lot of depth to their relationship that we didn't necessarily see in Dark World and Thor 1. So I really did enjoy those parts of it. But to see Natalie Portman's journey in the MCU, where she has her first 2 films. Now, to be fair, she actually did enjoy her time on Thor 1. It was Thor 2 where things went awry. She really wanted more female representation. She wanted to have her character be more than just like a Save Me Jane type of character. And that's what she requested for in Dark World. And when she was working with Patty Jenkins beforehand, they were working closely together when Patty Jenkins, who later directs Wonder Woman, was on that film.
I totally forgot that Patty Jenkins was involved in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, it was a disaster kind of from the beginning, that movie, because it pulled a DC and went through a couple of production issues. So
yeah,
Who
exactly.
ended up directing it? I want to say it was Scott Derrickson, but I know that's
no. No, it's Alan Taylor, I believe, if my video got that correct. But
Well, never heard
basically,
that guy.
yeah, it's not anyone you would know really, but really they were working together to bring a different story to there. Marvel wanted to tell a story that was less Natalie Portman centric. And so after Patty Jenkins left, well, Natalie Portman still had to honor her contract and just fulfill what she had to do. But she wasn't super excited about that, which is why you have that offhand comment in Ragnarok where they say, well, we broke up off screen, right? Because she had no plans of coming back. Now, I
mutual dumping.
Mutual dumping. And I think she could have been much more epic and much more grounded. And again, this is problems with some of the writing there. This is a story that needs to be told with a little bit more depth. And maybe what they're trying to do is to say that when she goes into the Lady Thor or the Mighty Thor suit, that she kind of forgets that she has cancer for a little bit, that she is trying to forget her troubles by being more lighthearted. Maybe that is the truth. But I feel like the story I would want to tell with that character would be to have this a little bit more grounded, would be to have this mean a little bit more something. And I would have liked for it to give her a whole movie as Lady Thor or Mighty Thor, then kill her off in the next movie, because I feel like that would have made a little bit more of a resounding feel. I just feel like Natalie Portman's time in the MCU has been very uneven. She had a couple good scenes, but she felt really out of place sometimes, especially in the Thor outfit. And while she was actually Lady Thor, that I don't know, I just didn't buy it as much. I didn't enjoy it, but there are some good parts to the performance. So that's me and my soapbox, Dieter. I'm so sorry.
All right, hang on.
So
this all of a sudden turned into a 2-on-1 handicap match. You gotta let me. I need
Go
a
for it.
rebuttal. I need a rebuttal.
Take your rebuttal.
I will take my rebuttal. First things first, I wanna ask the fellow knights, because I know the answer to this for myself, but I'm curious about the two of you. Have you guys ever watched a lot of romantic comedies? Like
yes.
Yeah. I love romantic comedies.
I mean, we have girlfriends. Yes.
My favorite movie of all time is Crazy Stupid Love, and I say that to anybody who will listen. I'm like, watch this movie. It's hilarious. It's funny. I mean, I love it. So yes.
Okay. Very, very cool. Very cool. Okay. The reason I ask about that is because a YouTuber by the name of Princess Weeks on Twitter noted that Thor Love and Thunder is basically Marvel continuing their trend of doing the Marvel movie, but as a insert genre here. Like we had Captain America, the First Avenger being a historical drama, Winter Soldier being a political spy thriller, Guardians of the Galaxy being a space opera, so on and so forth. And Princess Weeks, in her Twitter post, pointed out that Thor Love and Thunder is Marvel attempting to do a romantic comedy. And it's interesting that you brought up those scenes in Omnipotent City of Thor and Jane having that kind of fun, flirty banter, because that read as very... I don't want to say it was like the most honest performance in the world, but it read as this is a romantic comedy performance that is designed to draw the viewers in to their chemistry and their relationship. So I wondered, because the answer for me is I have not watched a lot of romantic comedies. I named the one that I've watched. It was Hitch. And I don't really remember much outside of Kevin James trying to dance and Will Smith slapping.
Good movie.
So,
Will Smith was learning his move for later on.
Yes.
So I was curious if the two of you had watched romantic comedies, and then having watched romantic comedies, if that informed your view of that scene. Would you say that's the case?
I would say probably yes, but it seems like you're being very intuitive with it, because that's not a thought that I had. Like I wasn't thinking in my head, like, man, because of my extensive viewing of romantic comedies, it sort of was one of those things where when you're watching something and something doesn't quite sit right with you, and it's a little hard to like nail it down. Now I've only seen it one time, so maybe when I watch it again, it won't come across as weird, but I just numerous times, that was the scene that stuck out the most to me, but numerous times I just felt like, Natalie, I'm not feeling it. I'm not really feeling what you're saying. And I have to agree here with Brian from the Bear and the Beard podcast, where he said he didn't cry at her death. And I feel like we were supposed to cry at her death. It was one of those things. But you just didn't feel as invested. You didn't feel it as hard. Now I also have, I don't want to get into it right now because we'll talk about it later, but there's reasons, other reasons, comic book reasons not to cry at her death as well. So we can talk about that later. We'll move on from that. So unless you have anything else, go ahead.
Real quick, I wanted to answer because Dita did ask us. Yeah, I could definitely see that this had like a late '90s to early 2000s rom-com feel. Like if it was a couple decades ago, Cameron Diaz would have starred in Natalie Portman's place, and maybe we would have had Vince Vaughn as Thor. In an alternate universe.
Yeah. In the multiverse of romantic madness.
Yeah, I'm just choosing the two. I guess when I think of rom-coms, when I think of that, like I think of Will Smith, I think of the Vince Vaughns, I think of Cameron Diaz, because Cameron Diaz did a lot of those, if you remember.
You're forgetting Mr. Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey himself, yes. All right.
What was
all right.
That blonde woman from You've Got Mail?
You've Got Mail.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen them all.
I have her face.
I've seen a lot of them.
I have her face, but I can't remember the name. No, but I get what you're saying. I just think there are so many. Again, we'll get into that more, but there are so many different elements in this movie that, yeah, there are just so many elements that you kind of get lost in some of the flow of things. That's what I will say. And I'll keep the rest of it for later.
And I think our audience is kind of in agreement with you, because Brian in our Facebook chat says, I don't think the problem was Natalie. I think they just didn't utilize her enough. Natalie was a bright light in every scene she blessed. And that's correct. Natalie Portman was a blessing on this movie. It was a blessing for Taika Waititi. But no, I think Brian and I think you, EJ, are absolutely correct. I enjoyed this movie, I think, more than both of you did. But I'm not so naive as to say it was a perfect movie. I think there was a lot of this movie that felt like character decisions were being motivated by what the plot needed, as opposed to what the characters wanted. Particularly, I think in the prologue, this everything involving the Guardians of the Galaxy prologue with Thor felt very disjointed to me.
And wooded, honestly. Like, I've never seen Chris Pratt never have charisma, but in that scene.
I mean, I wouldn't quite go that far, but I don't think you're entirely incorrect either. It really did feel like Taika Waititi said, wait, the Russos did what? Thor's with who? Oh, we got to get them out of there. That's James Gunn's thing, not mine.
I think that's probably, like, when you talk about worst performance, maybe that's it. It's kind of the Guardians in general. That's kind of part of it. But again, that feels a little bit disingenuous just because it is so quick. And I think that what we're sort of seeing, the common thread, the common theme, is anybody that we're praising in this movie or anybody that we're criticizing, I don't think anybody's really upset with the individuals necessarily. It just feels more of like people were either overutilized or underutilized, or just weren't put in the position to succeed the best way possible. Because we all know the Guardians can deliver. We know Natalie Portman can deliver. We know Christian Bale can and did deliver, but we would have loved to see some more of those things. And I think that's really the common theme that we're coming up with. And I would just kind of say that, and maybe you guys agree or disagree, but I think this movie could have dealt to be another 15-20 minutes longer. I wouldn't have agreed. I mean, we're in the age of 2.5-3 hour movies where we come prepared. We hold it the whole time, watch the credits roll, had to pee since like minute 10 of the movie. Yeah, listen, we go strong. We're soldiers. We're in there. We'll grind it out and wait till the end. So
there's been studies done.
That being said, I do want to say normalize intermissions for movies, guys. Like,
I would be fine with the intermission, but it should. I think this movie could have been longer.
Honestly, they've done studies. I think this generation, ever since the Snyder Cut came out, the bladders of everyone just began to expand more, and you just didn't have to go to the bathroom as much. You know, maybe that's just something they'll do studies on later. But yeah, no, I agree with a lot what you guys are saying. I do want to get back to some of the positives of what this movie did have going for it. So one of the things I wanted to go with all of you guys is favorite scenes and why. And I'll kind of kick that off real quick. I am going to need some help because I can't remember the name of it right offhand, but basically when they go find Gore himself. And
the Shadow Realm.
In the Shadow Realm. Yep. When they all of a sudden go gray for a second, that was some beautiful cinematography. Gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Absolutely gorgeous. It was honestly as if Taika Waititi. And I probably didn't say that right. But that's okay. He's not a good enough director.
You
for me to
didn't
say
in our
correctly.
video that had 6,000 views either. So why start now?
Exactly. Anyway, he's not a great enough director for me
Got
to say
him.
the right name for anyway. It was almost as if that
You
he had
take
been
that
sat
back.
in
I
his
will reach
chair
through this
and a real
computer
director
and
like
smack
Zack
you.
Snyder came in for a second and directed that scene while he sat in the corner like tied up. So that scene in particular was just beautiful. Christian Bale was at his greatest. Gore was coming there and really starting to just terrorize everyone, had them all tied up. And if for once in a while, that was the one part of that movie that was a movie. And that scene right then and there was just great.
He's just trying to make us mad. That's all. That's all.
He knows I live in a different state now and not 15 minutes away from him, so he thinks he can get away with it.
So yes, that scene right there is actually a top 5 Marvel scene total. Like, to give him that credit, top 5 Marvel scene of all time in the Marvel universe. But everything else beyond that movie, not as much of a fan.
Have you
So
seen
yes,
what
I
we
have.
do in the shadows?
What's up?
Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
You're saying that, and you're saying Taika Waititi isn't a good enough director for you to say his name right, which is.
He's just trying to get those hot takes out there. You know EJ. You know EJ. He likes to just spit some fire sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to get canceled like that with my dumbass co-host refusing to say the name of a freaking indigenous New Zealander Jewish director refusing to get his name right. I'm not. No.
Is it Taika
EJ's
Waititi?
views do not represent my own, and I want the audience to see that I'm angry at him and I'm calling him out on his nonsense right here, right now.
There we go. There we go. EJ needs to be called out multiple times a day, every day.
No, I don't regret anything I said. I believe in it. And if I have to be canceled by the mob, I'll be okay.
All right, we gotta move on to you, Dieter.
Like a half a mob anyway.
Dieter, you go ahead and jump in. EJ's off on some fantasy world land somewhere. I don't know where he thinks the world works a certain way when it. I think EJ's in his own shadow realm.
Anyway, no. So Taika Waititi is a fabulous director. Let's get that right off the bat. And EJ choosing to antagonize me to this level notwithstanding, he's right. The Shadow Realm scene is probably the best and most memorable scene in the movie. There's 2 things that I wanted to shout out about that scene before I talk about my actual favorite scene. The first of which is when they are having their conversation with Gore, and Gore is trying to get Stormbreaker from Thor. Mm-hmm. And he decides to start choking out Valkyrie and Jane Foster. And I don't know if you guys caught this, but the blocking of that scene is almost exactly the same as the blocking of the scene in Infinity War when Thanos was choking Loki. Because Thor had something around his neck. He was muffled. You could see the look of panic in his eyes as he watched someone or someones that he loved.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, you're right. Taika definitely.
It's a parallel for sure. Yeah.
All right, EJ, say this with just once. Taika
Waititi.
So it's like YTT, like a dog, like YTT. Myself to be corrected on that. But yes.
So I'll defend EJ really, really quick because EJ is notorious for mispronouncing names. I'll give you a quick example. I had a cat for a long time. She ended up running away. Very sad. Yeah, her name is Tamari, and EJ called her every other name you get: the Kamari, Kamara, Tamara, Tamari. Like, he just wouldn't get it right, and I every time with Tamari.
I just knew she wasn't going to be around for a while.
Pronunciation, and he just never got it correct. So it's kind of EJ's shtick. It's kind of his thing to just mispronounce things and not care about it. So that's just who he is as a person. So maybe I'm not defending him. I'm just saying it's not personal to anybody when he does it. He just does it.
No,
he doesn't discriminate when he doesn't care about how things are pronounced.
No, Sarah says that I'm the old man in Modern Family. That's who I am at times.
Jay, yeah. I could see that. I could see that.
And I do recognize the irony of us having this conversation when there was actually a little bit of a kerfuffle about this movie regarding the use of people's names. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there were some people online who did not take kindly to the scene where Thor refuses to use Axel's chosen name.
Ooh, I forgot about that. I did see that.
I will say it's a little bit of an awkward scene, and I think the reason it's an awkward scene because I've seen certainly there are people on the internet who have read that as a joke about dead naming trans people, which just gonna get this off the top right now. Don't dead name trans people. It's disrespectful. It's weird, and just don't do it. But that being aside the point, a lot of people saw that as being very indicative of dead naming, and
don't think that's what it was.
It's interesting because I also saw other people who were like, "Wait, this isn't about dead naming. This is about the tradition, for lack of a better word, or the propensity of immigrant children to choose Americanized names or names that are more common to the country that they have emigrated to for the purposes of basically fitting in, but at the same time sacrificing their culture. And I have to say, despite the fact that I've spent this entire video defending Taika Waititi, I don't believe that scene was intentionally meant to be a dead naming trans people joke.
Correct.
I don't think that's the case. But at the same time, I can 100% understand how a person who is trying to live their life with a new name, a name that they have chosen for themselves, seeing a hero, a protagonist, intentionally choose not to honor that a character's chosen name. I could see that being very like out of left field, like swerve car crash when you're in the movie. And I think I believe that what Taika was going for was this whole concept of colonialism and immigration and the impact that has on immigrant children. But if it didn't carry through to the audience, and for a lot of people it certainly didn't for me, I don't think that scene was written as well as it could have been.
Yeah, no, I remember people actually getting upset about that now that you mention it.
It did feel weird as a scene to me, who is, clearly a white dude and very much cisgender. It felt very strange to me. As a scene. But we're talking about favorite scenes, so
exactly.
we got to be positive. And I got off on a tear because social issues interest me. My favorite scene outside of the Shadow Realm, which was great, and it looked like a freaking Harryhausen, like those old like claymation monsters. It looked amazing. But I got to choose something different for me, Jay. And so I want to call out the Omnipotent City scenes. Oh my gosh. These scenes are catnip for people who rewatch movies, because there is so much in there that you're just pausing and you name all the different gods that are being represented. There appear to be Maori gods. There appear to be Hindu gods. Buddhism doesn't really have gods per se, but there are modern objects being treated as gods, very much in the vein of like a comedic version of Neil Gaiman's American Gods. And obviously then we had Russell Crowe as Zeus, who was the person EJ was originally going to choose as his least favorite performance, and was in fact one of my favorite performances in the movie, because I am a huge mythology nerd. I love Greek mythology. I read Edith Hamilton's mythology for fun as a kid. And Russell Crowe's performance as Zeus and the way Zeus is written is so in line with Zeus, the character from mythology, who's just this horny, past his prime, absolute douchebag. And it was so nice to see someone be honest about like basically what a terrible person Zeus is. And I did read that Russell Crowe and Taika Waititi had a little bit of friction on set because Taika Waititi was insistent that Russell Crowe should do a British accent for Zeus. And Russell Crowe was like, no, man, we've got to do Greek accent. He's a Greek god. Let me do the Greek accent. And boy, oh boy, am I glad Russell Crowe won that fight, because that character would not have sold the way it did if he was using like a posh received pronunciation accent. It was just absolutely great. One wonderful performance, I think, and just lush, beautiful scenery surrounding it.
Nice.
Yes. I agree. I liked Russell Crowe, and I love Greek mythology as well. It's very interesting. It's fun to read about, talk about, all that. So I'm glad that that's getting incorporated now. And we have the cutscene at the end, which I mean, we gave a spoiler warning. I'll give another one here right now. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to reveal one of the cutscenes now.
Yeah.
Okay, I gave him time. Hercules is in this, so that was really, really cool. We got to
comics accurate costume for Hercules.
Yes,
so good.
I'm very excited to see Thor and Hercules clash potentially in the future, but more on that later. My favorite scene is also the Shadow Realm. I think that's kind of all of our answer. Really, it's kind of really the only true answer. It's just so well shot, so just interesting and fun to watch. It really captivates and pulls you in. But I'll give like an honorable mention, I guess. I really like the scene with the kids, which part of that is in the Shadow Realm. I guess technically it's all in the Shadow Realm once they're captured, but you don't see the Shadow Realm the whole time. They're kind of in that cage together and they're talking. And I love how Axel, Heimdall's son, is trying to, keep everybody like encouraged and be like, no, Thor's gonna come save us, like everything's gonna be okay. He's trying to like keep everybody sane and keep them from being too scared and whatnot. And just seeing Heimdall's son is really neat, and it truly confirms the very long time fan theory that Idris Elba / Heimdall got game. So
well, that's not a theory, that's kind of like a fact at this point.
That was what I just said. Is it's now confirmed. So now, now we know
Idris Elba have got game. That's
just throwing that out there.
Even his role on The Office, got game.
Oh yeah, so. Wonderful. I even forgot he was in that until I said he was. He had a guest.
Those, like,
he's the Steel.
Managers.
He's the Steel manager. He comes from Steel, and then he manages for a bit, and him and Michael clash a bunch. So. I forget the character's name right now.
Michael Scott leaving, because I remember when Steve Carell left, they made a big deal of like who's going to be the new boss, and it was like they brought in James Spader and Catherine Tate and a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Catherine Tate, like I know you mentioned earlier the Axel scene with Thor being a little cringy. I think the cringiest thing about that scene is that it looks like that CGI looks like it was from the first season of Doctor Who Rebooted. I think that's the most cringy thing about it.
It didn't bother me that much, if I'm being honest. I saw a lot of people complaining about it. It didn't bother me that much.
It's bad. It's terrible. But before we get all into that, I want to go ahead and rank our 4 Thor movies at this point. Our 4 Thor movies.
See, it is hard.
That's hard.
You messed me up, Josh. Our 4
it's my fault. Blame me.
Movies. Yeah, it is your fault, Josh.
Because as we've established, you're incredible at enunciation and pronunciation.
Usually, actually, perfectly. Morgan Freeman takes lessons from me. At any rate. At any rate, I want to go ahead and rank
every word you just said was wrong.
Our 4 Thor movies. And I want to start with Josh, because we've had 4 amazing movies with the God of Thunder, and he's the only Marvel character actually that's got 4 movies out of him. So everyone else stopped in trilogy. So this is a big milestone.
And there's going to be another one. I think that's pretty it's not official. We don't have an announcement, but it feels it would be odd. It would be very strange.
Say at the end of the end credits,
Thor will return.
They did the thing of Thor will return. So whether that's in a group movie like Avengers or Thor 5.
I didn't see the Thor will return thing, but also that could mean something else. So we'll get into that. I don't want to get into that conversation to the end.
But the funny thing is that the funny thing is Taika Waititi. Is that Taika Waititi? I'm going to practice.
Taika.
Taika Waititi. That's the best I'm getting.
There you go.
And Chris Hemsworth are watching the movie on the premiere,
dude.
right?
All this attitude.
And
look, he's going through a character arc. The character arc of learning how to say the name of the director of this damn movie. I know.
I will be a totally different person after I repeat this. But basically, they didn't even know that he was going to return until they saw it in theaters. I saw an article about that recently. So because they thought that this might be the last go of the character. So very interesting stuff there. I thought that was very interesting that they revealed it that way to those who weren't even in the know. So Kevin Feige still keeps things kind of close to the heart, close to the chest.
You're
Josh,
telling me, Miss Marvel. Anyway,
Josh, go ahead and rank the 4 Thor movies for me. Give it to me.
Okay, here we go. So this is pretty straightforward and easy for me. We're going to put Ragnarok right at number 1. I'm not going to go countdown backwards. I'm going to go 1 to 4. Really easy for me. It's Ragnarok. I don't really feel like I have to defend this. It's funny, actually hilarious. It's so rewatchable. It's probably the Marvel movie I have rewatched the most because it's just an easy watch. Very easy to kind of break the ice a little bit if it's someone who hasn't seen a whole lot of Marvel but maybe wants to dip their toes in. I think it's very wide range of an audience that's going to enjoy that movie versus maybe some of the other ones might be a little more specialized towards nerds such as ourselves. But yes, excellent. That's number 1 for me. Number 2 for me is probably this movie. This is where I guess it gets a little muddy. It's probably Thor Love and Thunder because it still has that humor. It still delivers on a lot of things. It falls short in some areas, but it's definitely not Ragnarok. I like Ragnarok much more than I liked this movie, but it is number 2 on my ranking. And so for number 3, it's going to be the first Thor movie, which I do enjoy. I watched it again not that long ago. It had been quite a long time since I'd seen it previously, but I did watch it recently, and I feel like I kind of gained a little bit more appreciation. It was kind of like a fine wine. It aged well for me. I did enjoy a look back at that movie. The second one, Thor Dark World, has been one of the worst MCU movies in a lot of people's opinions for a while. That hasn't changed. I honestly, watching it again was just, I think I liked it even less when I watched it again. When I started doing my whole Marvel rewatch not that long ago. So yeah, that's where they fall for me. Pretty straightforward as, we've got number 1 being Ragnarok, 2 Love and Thunder, 3 Thor 1, and then the Dark World being the last. So Dieter, how do you feel? Where do these fall for you?
I 100% agree with Josh. I doing it in from worst to best. Thor: The Dark World is far and away number 4. It commits the worst crime a Marvel movie can be, which is that it is boring. Not just formulaic, but boring and forgettable. It misuses almost all of its cast. It's dreary. The color palette is not great. It's designed to be forgettable. Then I think we have Kenneth Branagh's Thor, which is a movie that Kenneth Branagh I think was passionate about.
He has a very rich Shakespearean background.
Indeed, but I felt that it was a very conflicted movie at the same time. There's just the high Shakespearean drama and fish out of water comedy. Those were not two great tastes that taste great together for me. Also, in retrospect, Chris Hemsworth's hair is the worst hair in all of the Thor movies so far.
Only his eyebrows.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Cool.
Bleached eyebrows.
Not great. Then we have Thor Love and Thunder, which for me was a movie with great heart. This was clearly, I think, a movie that was something that Taika Waititi wanted to make. He wanted to tell a story about fatherhood, and that's ultimately what this movie is about. But I don't think it was quite strong enough in the way that it needed to be, in terms of its structure and in terms of the weird tonal conflict between the core of the movie, which is fatherhood, and then there's a second core which is dealing with grief and the loss of a loved one, and there was a tension there that was not present in the best Thor movie, which is of course Thor Ragnarok, which is just an excellent movie, top to bottom, top-notch performances, top-notch comedy, top-notch aesthetics, just fabulous. I love Thor Ragnarok. It's, I would say, probably in my top 5 MCU movies, certainly top 10.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the audience has already gotten a little bit of a taste of what I feel about the movie if you've gone back and watched my Thor retrospective, right? And it's so funny because
you editorialized a little bit on that one.
I did a little bit. I'm an opinionated guy. Actually, no, I'm not opinionated. I'm joking, Dieter. The thing is that in that video, I was just kind of go ahead and just give people my take. Now, obviously, with this live, like everyone in life, I have an angel on my right side and a devil on my left, and the devil on my left on this live stream has been very lively, and I've let him win a lot. And so when it comes to my ranking of the Thor movies, he kind of had some influence on this. So you guys ready for this?
Just say what you're gonna say.
Lay it down.
So the number one movie that Thor's been in as far as his solos is Thor 1. First of all, I really enjoyed going back and watching it. It was a breath of fresh air. I like the cinematography. I like how they built Asgard. I think Asgard is a beautiful place, and I'm legitimately sad they blew it up in Ragnarok because I don't like that we can't go back to there and see more.
I will say the design for Asgard was spectacular. I'm not going to question that.
You can see the betrayal, the original betrayal of Loki from Thor. Loki's first struggles with being who he is and having this conflicted identity of who he should be. He's born to be a king. He was told that from birth. And all of a sudden he doesn't have anything to rule, really, right? You see the All-Father, man. Sir Anthony Hopkins Clarice himself, who put down a great but sometimes stiff performance that I enjoyed. And as far as just the tone of Thor, that's my perfect Thor. I like Thor that is more serious, a little bit more grounded and Shakespearean. And the thing with Thor 1 that this movie did not do as much, it had just two elements going on: the rom-com fish out of water story and the Shakespearean drama. That's way less going on than what's going on in this movie. I think they're great flavors. Maybe we just obviously we have different taste buds, but when you give that to me on my plate, I'm like, this is excellent. This is pretty good. And when he takes his mug and says another, that's funny to me. That's the funnier joke than anything in that movie. Yeah. Anything in Love and Thunder, that's funnier than anything there. Or when he gets hit by a car multiple times, hilarious. Loved it. Laughed every time. The number 2 movie in my list is Ragnarok. I got to give it to Ragnarok. Like, even though it's not necessarily my cup of tea, I got to be honest and say that it's a well-made movie. Like, it knows what it wants to do. It's confident in how it executes things. And the Thor versus Hulk fight is fun. Like it is when Loki says, "That's how it feels." That's funny. That is
a really good joke.
It's just kind of funny, Then you have Tessa Thompson's introduction into the universe. Korg is nice in doses. Korg gets annoying at times for me. I can't take him all the time.
The movie gives us my favorite Korg line: "Piss off, ghost."
Yes, I love that. I love that line.
When your house creaks or doors move because of wind, I will just shout that at my house. That line lives in my brain and my heart.
Yeah.
Plus,
that one when they're talking about the hammer, right? And Thor's trying to explain his hammer. It's like, I would spin my hammer and it would pull me. Oh my God, you let your hammer pull you off? It's like that whole dialogue between them. Like, it's just, it's gold. And it's gold in this one too. But sorry to hijack, but it's fine. You guys have to get in there. And
it's hard to hate a movie with Jeff Goldblum in it. You know,
That's true.
True.
It's really like even I tried, and I was just like, nah, I can't do it. I don't have the strength. I'm not
you
strong
cannot hate his, the Grandmaster. You cannot hate him. He's just so much fun.
Was a little too light in place where I thought it should be dark, sure, but it's a well-made movie. I can't really get upset about it. My number 3 is Thor: Dark World. Yeah, my number 3 is Thor: Dark World, which means as a response, Thor: Love and Thunder is my least favorite movie. Now, Thor: Dark World had a lot of good things going for it.
Name one thing you remember about Thor: Dark World.
I remember Christopher Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor.
What do you remember?
Oh my
god! Now.
What was he trying to do? What was his motive? How was he trying to obtain it?
He was trying to get the red Kool-Aid. You watched it.
For what? For what purpose?
What was his goal?
Who had the red Kool-Aid? What's it called?
It was in Natalie Portman, and they were trying to extract
Who
it.
killed Thor's mother?
An elf. And at any rate,
that's actually the correct answer, I believe.
It is.
Yeah, an elf. I just think that movie, even though the finale was kind of lackluster, it had some problems behind the scenes, and I think that was the majority of the issue. But the grounded storytelling, some of the fight scenes, and kind of just the way they built the lore, I enjoyed. I like that. I liked it. Thor: Love and Thunder for me is the worst because even though it knows what it wants to do, it doesn't actually know what it wants. So let me take that back. It's all over the place. It's the messiest Thor movie and the least sure Thor movie of all of them because it's all over the place. It could have been 20 or 30 minutes longer. I think it would have done much better. But just as a movie product, I could definitely go back and watch Thor: Dark World before I watch Love and Thunder again.
That's fair. Not really, but I'm supposed to say nice things, I guess.
I'm gonna call this right now. In about a decade, when they finally bring the X-Men into the MCU and they cast Wolverine, EJ is gonna be here on this channel, sitting in front of his brand spanking new microphone, and he's gonna swear up and down that X-Men Origins Wolverine was Hugh Jackman at his height.
Probably.
And I say this as a person who genuinely loves X-Men Origins Wolverine. Mind you, I don't think it's a good movie, but I will 100% watch it if it's ever on.
No, X-Men 1 is much better than that. X-Men Wolverine, I wanted to like it, and it's hard to hate anything with Hugh Jackman. It is, but I don't dig that movie. No. So, yeah, just kind of like how we said before, I think we've... I mean, we've talked about this movie for a long time. You know, I want to go ahead and give this our general ratings. Officially, I have shields. Obviously, Josh has swords, and Dieter has gauntlets, I believe.
What does Dieter? What do you have? Can we clear that up? Because I think
remember this ever being a conversation. I shouldn't say that.
We did have a conversation at some point, and then you did, because I remember you came up with something and I don't remember what it was. So gauntlets are yours if you want, or you can take a minute and come up with something different.
I'll take gauntlets. I'm good with gauntlets.
Gauntlets. Awesome. All right, let's go
Gauntlet ruined everybody's life for 5 years. I'll take it.
That's fair.
So you guys have heard my reasoning about this movie. I'll be honest. The more I think about it, the more I dislike it. The more I'm just not satisfied. I'm giving this 2 shields out of 10. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be. It needs about 30 or 40 more minutes. It needs a lot more time to cook. The jokes were in there, but the jokes weren't super funny. Ragnarok was funny. I laughed multiple times during Ragnarok, even when I didn't think there should be laughs.
I can't wait to take clips of this and like put them in a later video down the road. Like, that quote right there is definitely getting put away and stocked away somewhere where it says, "I thought Thor Ragnarok was funny."
Shiny new editor, and I really hope they're watching.
So yeah, this movie just it doesn't do much for me. These are wooden performances for the most part. Natalie Portman's return is kind of and yeah, there's just not much to do with this. Our boy Taika Waititi. whatever.
You ruined the whole character.
Again, I did. I'm back to square one, which is why Taika. Now, he said this in an interview with Tessa Thompson.
He's pronouncing all of the vowels and he's not adding anything else in. That's the best we're going to get.
He talked with Tessa Thompson in an interview recently. He said that basically the script he was writing was basically he was throwing all jokes he thought 10-year-olds would think are funny. And he's right. This movie isn't all that clever. It's not really that serious. And it's everything that people say that Marvel's bad at. It's the most Marvel movie to ever Marvel. Just a storyline that
about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And
this is worse. Man. This is worse. This is as bad as Wonder Woman 1984. This is like that level. I
still haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't. It's bad. This is that level. That. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. Honestly, it's a war crime in most countries to see that movie.
The one thing I know about Wonder Woman 1984 makes that a really uncomfortable thing for me to
Yeah, so two shields, man. I wasn't a big fan. I was looking forward to this movie. I had hyped myself up by watching a lot of things. We should have started off with the Thor that left with Endgame, because that Thor arc was beautiful. And to have him here, he just feels like a vain, silly boy, like Sir Anthony Hopkins said in his first film.
Okay, interesting take yet again. I'll piggyback off you here. This is 7 swords for me, because it is, that might be the number I give out more often than not, but I can't give it a 6. 6 is just too low. I can't quite give it an 8 either. So maybe it's a 7.5, but I'll settle at 7, because there are a lot of things I like about this movie. There's a lot of things the movie did right. I have no qualms with Chris Hemsworth or Thor in this movie. And I disagree with EJ that he seems like a silly boy or whatever you said. I think the journey he's going through kind of makes sense, because we see him looking for love, and then ironically he finds love, but he finds it in a child and someone literally named Love. And I really like the journey that he takes. I have some issues with how he got there, or some of the supporting parts around it, I guess. But how Thor gets there, I loved. And I said this in the beginning when I was talking about my best performance, favorite performance. I think Thor nailed it. And I'm super excited to see the next Thor movie and to see where they take it and to see Chris Hemsworth again. I mean, I also was very, very excited for this. I thought that this movie was going to rival No Way Home for me, and it didn't. I did have very, very high expectations. So I was trying to temper that and understand that, listen, I had very high expectations. Let's temper it a little bit and just be fair and look at the movie as a whole, look at it with all the other movies. And to me, adding all those up, it comes to a 7 for me. So what about you, Dieter? Where are you at?
I'm going to give this 7.5 gauntlets, I guess.
Say it with confidence.
Gauntlets.
Gauntlets.
Yeah, 7.5. Like, this is a movie that is about a lot of things, and sometimes it is about a lot of things to its own detriment. It is a movie about choosing. I don't want to say choosing life, because that's a loaded sentence currently. But it is a movie about not succumbing to hopelessness. It is a movie that is about not succumbing to nihilism. It is a movie about taking a shitty situation and making it the best that it can be and using it to bring good into the world. It is a movie about grief. It is a movie about fatherhood. It is a lot of things. And unfortunately, it is, I think, too many things. I think it either needed more time or it needed less different things to explore. And personally, between the two, I would have taken more time, because what we got was, I felt, really great. The best way I can describe this movie is it is a movie with very weak bones but a great heart.
If it had,
I will.
Sorry about that. I thought you were done.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, I will take a movie with great heart over a movie that is structurally perfect any day of the week.
They should have focused on two aspects, right? They should have focused more on the villain himself with Christian Bale, and they should have done more to deepen the heart of what was going on with Natalie Portman. That was the two things they should have focused on in this film more. And to me, when you have that great of a performance by a villain, in my opinion, you got to utilize that way more. Like, obviously, when Christopher Nolan was on the set of The Dark Knight, he just saw Heath Ledger going for it. He's like, yo, bro, I got to get as many scenes with this guy as possible.
Should have made this movie just half Heath Ledger doing what he do.
Yeah, exactly. So that should have been the same thing. And with that deep storyline with Natalie Portman, you could have really tugged at my heartstrings there. And it was like our friend, I believe Brian said this earlier in the chat, I should have felt a lot more something there. And because, and I don't give this rating out of hate. A lot of people say that I sometimes give ratings out of hate. This is not a hate one. This is I'm disappointed. I'm not angry. I'm gravely disappointed. And I have to treat this right.
That's mom for mad.
To be fair, this is one of the lowest rated Marvel films. Like, it's not like I'm going on a limb here.
It's critically not doing as it's below average for Marvel for sure.
Yeah, so like, even though I'm being harsh, there's people out there that are being much harsher to it. Like, I just it just felt really rushed. That's the one thing it just felt rushed, man. Like the movie never breathed at one point to just let us feel something.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest criticism I can give it. It just didn't breathe as much as it should have. Yeah, I'm checking it on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It is at 68%, which is not certified fresh, and like it's a couple percentages away from being kind of rotten, actually. And if it was any movie that wasn't already being held up by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I believe this would have been a rotten movie for sure.
I'm not going to respond to that. I'm not. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have time. We're trying to keep these live streams shorter.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that generally speaking, like franchise like Star Wars and stuff like that, they tend to help out worse products by being part of a larger, more successful overall product. You know, so even if
there's, I'm sure there's some truth to that, for sure, because once you have a name, you have a name, right? So I'm sure there's some that goes into that. But let's go ahead and get on to the next subject here before we fight too much about.
That's actually it, guys. We're at the end of it at this point, but thank you guys so much for tuning in to talk with us about this movie. The people that dropped in there, we enjoyed talking with you. I enjoyed talking with you guys much more than I enjoyed the movies. That's something. But give us a like and subscribe if you can. See if we can make it to that next 200 mark. Really enjoy my boys Dieter and Josh coming in and giving in some good takes as well. And we can't wait to see you guys again. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do everything you're supposed to do, and tell me what you guys want to see out of this. Like, basically just tell me what you thought about the movie. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right.
You are.
I might be. Who knows? We're leaving that up for it.
Billion says, Bill was the best part, then Crowe. I enjoyed it very much. Feel like my favorite director tarnished some good stories with comedy, but sorry I'm late. Well, thanks for joining us anyway.
Better late than never. Thanks for dropping a comment, Vivian. That's awesome.
for hopping in. Thank you guys so much for listening, and can't wait to see you guys next time whenever we do another stream. Keep your eyes out for our video next week that's coming out of Dieter, actually, and he's going to be discussing the multiverse and the universe in the MCU. So very interesting stuff. Can't wait to see you guys there. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one, guys. Good night.